When an author sets out on the long and arduous journey of creating a novel, one central aspect of the story they must consider is who will help helm their ship. Who will guide the reader through the vast worlds they've created? Who will be the character the readers will root for and celebrate in their success? And who will be the character they will feel for within their moments of failure? Who the author creates to be the main character of their story can impact the success or failure of that novel more than anything else. But what makes a character well written? In search for that answer, I happened upon many discussions where the words relatability or empathetic were thrown around. But what does that really mean for a character? I wanted to start this investigation for myself as my first project on this YouTube channel that I am titling the Why I Love series. I hope to explore characters in literature that have gripped me in such a potent way and discuss what, at least to me, makes a well-written character. Choosing the first subject for this work was easy, so today we will be starting with everyone's favorite demigod and reason why all adults my age seem to have a frighteningly well-constructed understanding of Greek mythology, Percy Jackson. For those unaware, the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, referred to by fans as the PJO series, is the start of what became an expansive universe. The original series spanned 5 books, stretching from Book 1, The Lightning Thief, to Book 5, The Last Olympian. Due to the series' success, Rick Riordan, my Lord and Savior, and the author of the PJO series, penned many spin-offs and sequels to the original 5 books. The Heroes of Olympus series served as a sequel to Percy's story, and the Kane Chronicles and Magnus Chase series expanded the greater Riordan verse by focusing on the Egyptian and Norse mythologies of their given stories. Riordan, a former English and history teacher, had always been passionate about mythology and noticed that his students loved the subject. Beyond that, Riordan expressed that inspiration from Percy had come from his own son. Knowing this, it is no wonder why Percy as a character was drafted with so much love. Percy Jackson and the Olympians is a simple series to describe, yet no description or summary, in my opinion, could do the book justice. To put it simply, the Percy Jackson series follows our main character Percy, who is usually accompanied with his best friend Grover and love interest Annabeth Chase, though I don't want to make it seem like that is their only purpose in the story, as together the trio navigates Greek mythology that is set in the modern world. They take quests, fight monsters, retrieve magical artifacts, and eventually complete a prophecy revolving around the Titan Lord Kronos. With that summary given, rough as it might have been, I want to begin now discussing what makes the titular character, Percy Jackson, as unique as he is. One common trope is the hero who just wants to be a normal kid. Some famous examples of this type of character are Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, Aang from Avatar, and, of course, Percy Jackson. However, that doesn't necessarily make them all part of the reluctant hero trope. As a matter of fact, I could easily categorize these 4 characters into 2 completely different boxes. These 2 boxes are the willing hero and the reluctant hero. In many ways, a willing hero will move the story along with their actions, whereas the events of the story must take place to the reluctant hero in order for the reluctant hero to make a move. Let me give you an example. In Book 2, The Chamber of Secrets, Harry believes the heir of Slytherin has kidnapped Ginny Weasley and taken her to the Chamber of Secrets. By all accounts, it is because Harry is a willing hero and a genuine good guy that makes him try to save Ginny. Remember, at this time, he still thinks that Ginny is a little odd and obsessive, and he also has no idea that the heir of Slytherin is Tom Riddle, aka Voldemort. Harry has very little reason to go into the Chamber of Secrets personally. Still, he feels compelled to do just that, because he is a willing hero. On the other hand, Percy is most times forced into joining a quest, except for the few times he actually assigns himself to one. He isn't doing it just for the sake of being a hero. As a matter of fact, Percy's not necessarily the most interested in saving people he doesn't know or care about. This is in stark contrast to Harry, who, even when the Dursleys were in danger, was desperately trying to get them out of Four Privet Drive due to the fact that he knew once he became the age of majority that the protection of his mom's magic wouldn't work on keeping that house safe. In the Titan's Curse, Annabeth is kidnapped and forced to hold up the sky. This instantly sets Percy off into action. But I want you to imagine that had that been someone like Gabe that was in danger, if you think Percy would have so much as left his bed in Cabin 3. He's not necessarily a hero cut from the cloth of heroes. He is a hero because he is being forced to be one, not necessarily because he wants to be one. Truthfully, all 5 books in the original Percy Jackson series place Percy in predicaments that force him into action. In Book 1, his mother is kidnapped and brought to the underworld, and the only way to free her is to bring Hades Zeus's Master Bolt. Percy is not even aware of the Master Bolt's location, nor does he know he's already carrying it when he enters the underworld in order to save his mother. In Book 2, though I don't want to make it seem like he wouldn't regardless, his best friend Grover is kidnapped and has his life put at risk due to the fact that their empathy link bonds the two. In Book 3, as we discussed, Annabeth is being kidnapped and tortured by having to hold up the sky. This forces Percy into action, and despite not getting the quest assigned to him, he assigns it to himself. In Book 4, if Percy doesn't figure out the labyrinth, it means the return of Kronos. It also means that Camp Half-Blood will be placed under siege in a way that seems never-ending due to the hidden connection. Finally, in Book 5, everyone he loves in the world is at the center of the war. And he knows now that he is the chosen one, as the prophecy states that he will be the one to make a decision that brings this war to a close. Percy puts himself through hell for his fellow campers. Despite sharing much of Luke's sentiment towards the Greek gods, Percy doesn't so much as choose to go on the quests, as the quests are forced upon him. I would also like to point out that Percy doesn't have the option to simply sit out his life as a demigod. As in the Percy Jackson universe, given that Percy's father Poseidon is one of the big 3 gods, monsters come after him simply for existing. He doesn't need to look for trouble, as trouble is quite literally destined always to find him. And unlike Harry, who is thrilled to become a wizard, and never stops loving magic, Percy from the jump lets us know he hates being a demigod. Percy doesn't want to be a hero. As a matter of fact, he is constantly stressed and terrified about what his life has become. However, part of Percy's key appeal is the few flashes we get into how the world views Percy. It is clear that they see him as a steadfast hero and leader of Camp Half-Blood, but from what we know about Percy, we see him as a teenager who is completely over all the awful things life keeps throwing at him, and quite frankly has no idea what he's doing. Rick choosing to write Percy Jackson in the first-person perspective also adds to Percy by giving him quite possibly the greatest monologue I have ever read. And because of this, I can't wait until the 6th book of the series, The Chalice of the Gods, drops, because traveling the world inside of Percy's head is truly the best way to explore the Riordanverse. Thankfully, unless you are part of the Disney team that was charged with creating the Star Wars sequel, most writers have discovered that people like flawed characters. Flaws are incredibly important to the betterment of a character. Rick masters this in his writing and connects the very concept of flaws to the mythology that provides the basis for his story. Ancient Greek storytellers always insisted on the importance of flaws to the characters in their story. These flaws would need to be faced and overcome for the hero to succeed. Should they succumb to the flaw, they die, thus coining the word tragic flaw. Rick follows suit and, as a matter of fact, takes it a step further, as he gives every single major character we follow within the Percy Jackson series a readily identifiable, fatal flaw. And when I say every character we follow, I do mean that. Here's just a short list. Annabeth Chase, her fatal flaw is hubris, a deadly pride. Nico D'Angelo, his fatal flaw is holding grudges. And finally, Thalia Grace, her fatal flaw is ambition. She desires power even though she knows she doesn't need it. And of course, our lead, Percy Jackson, is not without one of his own. However, interestingly enough, the flaw associated with Percy is a quality that most people find desirable and moral. Percy's fatal flaw is loyalty. Interestingly enough, this flaw is actually addressed by Athena in The Titan's Curse, in which she states, "The most dangerous flaws are those which are good in moderation." And this is where Percy hits a snag, because Percy's flaw isn't loyalty as I previously led you to believe, but rather, Percy's flaw is excessive personal loyalty, to the point that he would give his own life or allow the world to burn if it meant he could save Annabeth or any of his loved ones. Kronos abuses this loyalty time and time again, knowing the threat that Percy places on his ability to return to power. The whole ploy of having his mother kidnapped and brought to the underworld is in the hopes that Percy's loyalty will send him to an early grave. This doesn't include the times in the series where Percy puts his own life at risk to save his friends despite his responsibility to the rest of the world. To Percy, a world without his best friend Grover is worse than one where the Titans kill all the gods and take over the world. This is not to say that this flaw does not have a redemptive quality. Of course it does. Every time Percy puts his life on the line, it impacts those around him. The fact that every demigod in Camp Half-Blood has seen the lengths Percy will go to protect those he loves causes them to rally and fight beside them in the most difficult of circumstances. And in the case of Annabeth, a willingness to even give her life, if need be, to protect him. Despite his hatred for leadership, his flaw ironically turns him into the type of leader that Camp Half-Blood needs, and one that leads by example. This is now the final section of the video, and I'm gonna go a little bit off script for this, because this one is the most personal part for me. I can be honest here and say that I've not read every single book in the world, and I'm sure there's hundreds of great characters that have been put to paper by authors across the world, but I still feel confident that no character can ever replace what Percy Jackson meant to me. I happened upon the Percy Jackson series in middle school, ironically just a few days after being diagnosed with ADHD. Reading was always hard for me, as much like Percy Jackson, the letters would move and invert around the text, making it hard for me to read anything. I sucked at school, and in a shockingly coincidental way, the only thing that I truly thought I was any good at was swimming, as I had joined the swim team not a year prior. When I first picked up Percy Jackson, it spoke to me in a way that no other piece of literature likely could have in that moment. Everything about Percy resonated with me, from his relationship with his mother, though in my case it was more of a reflection of my grandmother, to the way he treasured his friendship or how he'd always kick himself when he disappointed Chiron, one of the few teachers who actually showed faith in him. Everything felt like such a great and direct parallel to my life. As a 12-year-old reading the series, Percy Jackson was everything I wanted to be. The mark he left on me as a person is matched by few. Rick Riordan, through the relatability of Percy Jackson, pushed me to break past limits I had set on myself, and I went from a kid who hated reading to a man with an aspiration to become an author. A good character can be memorable and make a story fun to follow, but a great character can change a life beyond the page. For me, Percy did that. And that, my friends, is why I love Percy Jackson. So thank you to everyone who made it to this point for watching my first video. I absolutely loved writing the script and look forward to creating many more in the future. Earlier I talked about how I aspire to be an author, and while I have nothing posted just yet, I'll be sure to have my Wattpad account linked below for you guys to check some of my work out when it's posted. Also, I'd be willing to consider creating some specific social media platforms for this channel to interact with all of you if that was something that's interesting to you, especially if this video does well. I'm also planning to live stream some Hogwarts Legacy. I'm not really sure about the time, but if I do, it will be on YouTube as well. So definitely be sure to what do they call it? Subscribe and like and stuff if you're interested in that. Finally, I know I didn't mention it in the video, but I am aware of the Disney Plus series coming out. I'm cautiously optimistic. As from what I've seen from Walker Scooble, he seems perfect to play a 12-year-old Percy. So definitely expect reviews when it comes out, but I've been so burned on the media franchise part of the Percy Jackson series that I'm just, I'll wait to see before I cast judgment. With that said, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below if there's anything you'd like to talk about or add. And thank you all so much for watching this first video. Until next time, peace.